The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the individual speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of any affiliated organizations, employers, or sponsors. This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered professional advice.
Hi, Robert. How are you doing?
I am good. I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, doing very good, Robert. Thanks for coming on. Let's start with introductions. Okay, tell us about yourself.
Oh, okay. My name is Robert Wafula. I am a fitness trainer and also nutritional coach. I've been in the industry for more than a decade, so it's one of my biggest passions, I could say.
Okay, so like you let's start with the fitness. Yeah, let's start with the fitness side. So is it especially to do with gym and muscle building and bodybuilding in that sense?
Yeah, yeah. So in the fitness side, yeah, I started off as a bodybuilder myself. I've been doing it for like 8 years, for the past 8 years. My first show was in 2007, 2007, just before the elections and stuff. And then I've been doing it for a while. So if I could speak more about bodybuilding is an interesting sport altogether. So it entails mostly lifting weights with proper techniques, of course, and proper nutrition. So to speak more about bodybuilding, it also depends with how properly you understand your body and how it works, what you need to eat, when you need to train, how you need to rest. So mainly, I think we can discuss more as we go on.
Yeah, exactly. So like I want to start this too from your beginnings. So why did you choose to pursue bodybuilding? Why was it something that you were interested in?
Okay, actually, for me, bodybuilding came as a result of one of my uncles is a very big competitor in the bodybuilding world. So I used to go with him to the gym most of the time. I didn't understand really what it was. I was just lifting weights for the fun of it. I didn't know. Then he told me one of the days he told me, "Why don't you try competing and stuff?" So with
Okay,
a
so
little bit of,
what age did you start at the gym?
I think at the gym, training in the gym, back in high school. Back in high school, we used to have a small gym. I used to play rugby in high school, so we used to
Uh,
do a bit of lifting and stuff. So that is when my lifting started back in high school when we used to play rugby because you had to be. I was actually the smallest in the rugby team, so I had to gain some muscle for me to be. I was small but fast. But then they told me you can't be fast because I remember there was a time I was properly hit in the field. I was properly hammered by another huge guy. So they told me, man, you're fast and all that, but then you need to build some muscle at least. Eat more and
okay,
lift weights.
okay, so you're playing rugby in high school. So this is what maybe like
Yeah.
around 15, 16 years old. Is that correct?
Yeah. Around 15, 16 years old, yes.
So now when you say you were small, like how many
hmm
kilos is that? Because generally, I mean, at that
I was
age, like what is a good weight?
55
Okay, right.
kg. I was
Uh-huh.
practically 55 kg.
Yo, that's crazy. I didn't know that, bro. That's that's mad.
I was
And
small. I was
that's
very
wow.
small.
And then what weight do you like? What weight is a good weight to be?
So when you're doing what when you're playing rugby,
Yeah, as in you said, like you got hit by a big guy. How
yeah,
much
that
do
guy
you
was
think
huge. That
you
that
weigh?
guy was probably like 80 something. So
Wow.
in rugby we have different positions. If you're playing, I was playing flank. Flank, you don't need to be big. You just need to be very fast. You need to be super fast.
Right, right. Okay, nice,
Yeah,
nice.
so
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 then you,
the
yeah, so
defenders
yeah.
are quite huge. Yeah, so that's why you need to be a bit fast, but then you also need to be masculine in a way that you, when you get hit, you don't just, yeah, you just don't topple over. Mm,
Okay, nice, nice. So
mm.
okay, you started, lifting weights in the gym, and then you said your uncle encouraged you to go into a
Yeah, yeah.
competition.
He encouraged me
So
to join
when,
bodybuilding.
yeah, was that still
And
in high school when you joined the competition?
yeah, when I joined the competition was when I was in uni. Uh, he actually, when we used to have the long breaks, I used to go to his place. He owns a gym down in Kericho. I used to go to his place. So while there, we used to train. He used to show me some techniques on how you need to train, what body parts you need to work on, and how you need to work on them. So it's all about technique and the proper nutrition. Yeah.
Okay, so can you tell us the experience of your first competition as to what exactly you needed to do to prepare for it in terms of both training and also nutrition as well?
Okay. So it's actually funny because this is what happened. My first competition, I actually went to see a bodybuilding competition. I went to watch a bodybuilding competition. Then he told me, "Why don't you get into the competition and see how you do?" I was like, "But I don't know anything. I don't even know how to pose. I have not even started for the competition. I didn't know anything at that point." So he was like, "Just try and see how it goes." So you're backstage. They give you the posing trunk, and then they oil you up, and then they tell you just go to the stage. So they are calling out the posing routines. I don't even know what they mean. You're just posing your own way. So the first competition was actually fun, but funny at the same time because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have any expectations by then.
Nice. So what position did you come in that competition?
I actually got, surprisingly, I came in my category. I was the second person, though I didn't know what I was doing. It was like a small competition. It was not a major competition. It was just organized by the gym where we used to train. So it was a quite an insightful competition. Yeah.
Nice, nice. And then can you tell us as to like after that, what the competitions after, what was your approach? Were you sort of trying to take it more seriously and more professionally?
Yeah. So I actually gained interest after the competition because I wanted to know what does it take for me to be at the top. What does it take for me to achieve the kind of physique? The person who won, he had a very nice physique. I was like, that is what I want to get to. And how am I going to get to that place? So I actually talked to him. He told me, he gave me a few pointers. And then I went back to my uncle. My uncle told me, I wanted you to experience the stage for the first time so that you get the feel of it and see whether you are fully into it or not. So from there, he took me under his wing, and then he showed me all the steps to take when you are preparing for a competition, how to prepare for a competition, the different types of poses you need to know when you're in the competition stage, and what category you need to be in at what weight. So, because there are different categories with different weights. So you need to exactly know which one you're going to and the weight cut for that category. Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell us a bit more about the when you're training specifically for a competition compared to, just training
Just
generally
saying.
for muscles? What's the difference?
Okay, so for the competition side of it, we usually have 2 seasons for the competition. When you are preparing for a competition, there's the off season. The off season is where you actually build the muscle for you to showcase in during your on season. So the off season is whereby you get to have a target weight where you need to get to. Let's say, I'll use for example, let's say I'm going to there are usually 6 categories. There's bantam, there's lightweight, there's welter, there's middleweight, there's light heavy, and then heavy. So let's say I'm going to the smallest category, which is bantam category. They range between 60 to 65 kgs. So in order for you to be at your best for this kind of category, you need to be above 65 kgs during the off season. So you need to be at around, let's say, 70, 72 kgs. Because when you're cutting down, you cut down water first, and then you cut down fats, and then you remain with very, very lean muscle. Because when you're off season, you tend to retain more water, and then you have a bit of fat. You are not lean enough. So maybe when you are at 72 kgs, and then let's say the competition is like 6 to 7 months out. So you use it you divide it into 2. Let's say if it's 6 months, you divide it into 2. So the 3 months, the first 3 months, you start coming down slowly. So let's say you lose about a kilo or 2 per month. You lose a kilo or 2 per month. Because if you do it rapidly, you tend to lose a lot of muscle. When you're on stage, you won't have muscle to showcase. You will be depleted completely. So you will be posing, but you will be flat. The muscles won't pop. You won't have muscles to show. You'll have dropped in kgs, but then you will not have the muscle to show. So this is how it works. When you're dropping down, you're cutting for your competition. You have to maintain your muscle mass. So in order for you to maintain your muscle mass, your protein intake has to be very high. So when you're nearing towards the competition, you start cutting off carbs slowly, start reducing on your fats, and you start how you train. You maintain muscle at the same time you lose fat. So I'll just put it into context. Let's say I'm training for a competition. I have 6 months out. This is what my program will look like. For the first 3 months, I will be going heavy, but with very minimal reps. Like I think Rishi can attest that is what we're actually doing right now, because we want to build muscle off season. So you maintain the weight 3 months for 3 months, and then when you get to the 3rd month, that is when you change your diet. Actually changes. If you are eating meals with fats in them, you tend to reduce the fats, increase the portions on your diet, on your protein. But the portions on your protein you need to increase, and the carbs you need to weigh. So now this is whereby you get a kitchen scale. Each and every meal you take, you have to make sure you weigh the meals. Each and every meal you take, you have to weigh the meals, so that you have, let's say your target macro nutrients per day is 2,500 per day. So if you need to hit 2,500 per day, let's say you have carbs, you have protein, and then you have good fats. The good fats are the only fats that you can use during the in prep competition. Maybe avocado, only avocado, depending on your body type also, because you need to know your body type in order for you to know how to feed your body and how to cut it down to where it needs to be. So 1, you get your macronutrient calculation. And then number 2, you subdivide your meals into either 3 or 4 meals per day. On the same meals, you subdivide your carbohydrates per meal. You need to know how many grams of carbs you need to eat per meal. Also, you need to know how many grams of proteins you need to eat per meal. Also, the amount of fats you need to have per meal. So when you calculate it
Okay.
down, it gives you the actual number of meals you need to have per day and the actual number of calories intake you need to have per day.
Ah, very okay. That's very interesting. Can you give us like from when, like an example from you, like when you were training during the bulking session? What was it in a typical day? What was your routine? As in, when
Okay, so
how many times a day are you training, and what also were you eating, and how many times a day were you eating?
And Robert,
yes.
throw in some stats of weight PRs as well, out of
Okay.
curiosity.
Okay. So when I was at my peak, at my best, this is what I used to do. I used to have 5 meals a day. I used to have 5 meals a day. So the 5 meals a day, I would break them into the first thing I wake up. When I wake up in the morning, that is at like 3 a.m. because we used to train at 3 a.m. We train at 3 a.m. So the first thing I would do, I would go to the gym on an empty stomach. I would not eat before I hit the gym. And then after I'm done with my training, after coming back from the gym, that is like at around 6, 5:30, 6. So after coming back to the gym, my first meal would be a complete meal. No tea, no bread, no nothing. There was nothing like that. So my first meal would be either minced meat, rice, and maybe avocado, and my protein shake. That would be my first meal. And then my second meal would be either 2 to 3 hours after that. At exactly 2 to 3. We used to have a timer for meals. 2 to 3 hours after that, you have to eat. You make sure you eat. So another 3 hours after that, I take my third meal. My second meal would be maybe 6 eggs, oats, and avocado. That would be my second meal. My third meal would be I would, I had my according to my body, I could slightly go off track. I would eat maybe ugali and fish during the day, still monitoring how my body changes. I would pause after every meal. I would have a pausing session after every meal, just to see what the meal does to the body and how it changes the body. Maybe if you put in a lot of carbs, it tends to be bigger. If you reduce the carbs, it tends to be more leaner. So you check your progress every other time.
So,
And
Robert,
then
you
when
also
it
like
comes
to
to
expand on that.
yes.
Also, when you're done, expand on that a bit. In
Uh-huh.
terms of what did you see change in your posing? So, like, what actually affected your body? What was the effect?
Okay. It's like this. When I wake up in the morning, the first thing when I wake up in the morning, when you pause in the morning on an empty stomach after you've just woken up, you're at your leanest.
Yeah,
You're
leanest in the
at your
morning. Yep.
leanest. That is where you look at your body and you're like, yes, this is what I want to achieve. This is what I want to look like. But after you've had your first meal, the body takes in all the carbs. And then when you pause after your first meal, you tend to be bigger than what you were in the morning, but less leaner, but very huge. When you take in your second meal, the body becomes more bigger because now you're feeding the muscles. Now the muscles are taking in all the nutrients. And then remember, you're also drinking water. And the carbs retain a lot of water in your system. So they help you retain a lot of water in your muscle cells. Because at this time, you're also using creatine and BCAAs, because those are electrolytes. They help you retain water in the muscle cells. So you see these two products, the creatine and the BCAAs, help your muscles retain water. They help feed your muscles with water. So when you take your third meal, that is when you feel like you are a bit sleepy, a bit your body needs to shut down and rest. So in order for it to digest the meals, because you remember you trained at 3 a.m. and you are still up at around, let's say, 2 in the afternoon, you're still awake. So when it gets to 12 hours, your body will tell you to, now I want to shut down, now I want to get some rest. But remember, you still have to work till maybe 8, 9 in the evening. So you see, I would sneak in like an hour of sleep. When people go for lunch break, I go for my sleep. I go sleep for 1 hour. So I sleep for 1 hour, and then immediately I wake up, I have my this is my fourth meal. I have my fourth meal. And then my last meal would be around 4 in the evening. I would take my meal at 4. And then after 4, I would have my shake at around 8. This is ISO. I think Rishi told you about ISO and how it works.
Yeah, more leaner protein before bed
Yeah. So
rather
that is
than
when you
concentrate.
you need a lot of protein, because your last meal, it is low on carbohydrates. So more protein, less carbs, and more veggies, because the veggies help your digestive system to take in more nutrients. They act as roughages. They help you digest more, so that not a lot of food goes to waste.
And Robert, also
Yeah.
on what you're saying, I read a post the other day saying that protein synthesis is 60% during your sleep. So if you
Yes.
feed it with the right proteins prehand to
Yes.
bed, you are going to work it out an
Yeah.
extra. The growth
Uh-huh.
is going to come.
So when you take your protein when you're going to bed, your body does not get exhausted, because when you're sleeping, the body is still active. It still wants to digest more food and all that. Because when you sleep on an empty stomach, when you wake up in the morning, you will not have energy to do anything. And also, when you sleep on a full stomach full of carbs, you'll wake up in the morning super tired, because the body has been trying to digest the carbohydrates.
I imagine
There
guy
is no
doing
there is no
you
activity
know
left. Yeah.
I'm guilty of that. We tried a morning session just the other week, and full of
And
carbs
you saw how it went.
beforehand. It was horrible.
You saw how
Forget
it
even
went.
reaching your PRs. Even doing warm up sets was difficult.
Because your body has not rested. The brain was asleep, but the body was trying to digest the food you had. So you are not active, you are sleeping. So we call it a basal metabolic rate. It's called basal metabolic rate. This is the energy your body uses while it's at rest. Because when you're sleeping, your body still has to feed itself. That's when you get if you take proteins, they tend to be used more into the muscles, other than your body trying to fight it. Because it takes a lot of energy for you to digest carbohydrates. That's why you're advised as a bodybuilder, anytime you want to go to the gym, the best time to go to the gym is after you've had your meal. Like, you see, when you eat, let's say, Rishi, like the time we usually come to the gym like at around 11. You've already had, let's say, 2 meals. So your body is full of, it has fuel to fuel your workout. So then you can train to your optimum level.
After you're doing the whole day, you're eating so many meals, and then you're training in the morning. Are you doing another session in the evening or in the night as well?
Not really, not really. Because our sessions were usually, it depends with your session. If your session is not as intense as it's supposed to be, then you'll need to have another session in the evening. But then
Okay.
when you get to have a super intense session, your muscles take 24 hours for them to recover. They take 24 hours for them to recover. That's why when you're designing a training program, you tend to give it a lot of time for it to recover, so that the next time you come and hit the same muscle, it has fully recovered and it is ready to grow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when you were in the stage of cutting down, are you still
Mm.
eating 5 meals a day?
Okay. So when you're in the stage of cutting down, this is where we do, it's called a caloric deficit. You reduce your calorie intake. So for the deficit, if you are taking, let's say, 2,500 calories per day, you cut it down to around 1,700 calories per day. So when you cut it down to 1,700 calories per day, you reduce on carbs. You can still maintain your proteins, but then when you reduce on carbs, it tends to feed directly to your muscles. The proteins feed directly to your muscles. The carbohydrates are used as a fuel to your body. They give you energy for you to run your activities during the day. So that is when you find people are super, super, super moody. When you're in the cutting phase, you are super moody because you don't have carbohydrates in your system. You do not have carbohydrates in your system. So we tend to reduce the carbohydrates as we get closer to the show. The more you get closer to the show, the lower it goes. So this is when you are fully dependent on iso whey protein, because iso whey protein is pure protein, and you need a lot of protein that time. So you can use iso whey, and you can use amino acids. So this time you're using not BCA, but the pure amino acids, because now you need to retain the muscles you built during the off season.
What is the difference between the pure amino acids and the
So
BCAAs?
BCAA are basically electrolyte based. So they hydrate your muscles, which is also a good thing because at this time, remember your water intake is also becoming lower when you're getting closer to the show.
You
Because
also
you need,
reduce your water intake.
yeah, you have to reduce your water intake. So
So
if that,
low water intake, like what exactly? Like how much
so
water?
let's say you are taking 2 liters of water per day. You are taking 2 liters of water per day. So you reduce it by 0.5 every other time you reduce it by 0.5. So if you're taking 2 liters, you take 1.5 liters, slowly reducing. So you don't want to deprive your body of water, because this is whereby you get muscle cramps. Anytime you're posing, the muscles are not showing, they're not popping out. You're posing, but they are not really seeing the deep cuts and all that, because your muscles are not popping. They do not have water in them. So most people tend to not drop BCAAs in order for them to retain the electrolytes in the muscles. And also, this is whereby you need to learn how to balance your salt, because salt retains a lot of water in the muscles. So you need to learn how to balance your salt. How are you balancing your salt? If you are taking, let's say, 2 spoonfuls of salt, you remember back there I told you need to weigh each and everything you're putting in your system. You need to have a kitchen scale. Also for the salt, you need to know how many grams of salt you're using per meal. So you don't cook with salt in your meals.
Oh wow, that's crazy. I didn't know it was
Yeah, because you
so.
need to know
It
the
was
amount
so.
of salt you're putting in your meals. So
Oh wow.
when you weigh your food, it includes the amount of proteins you're putting, how many grams of protein, how many grams of carbs, how many grams of fats, and what amount of salt you need to put in that. But for the salt, you need to look at your body and see what it does to your body. If you need to add or you need to reduce, you need to really know what your body needs, how lean it is becoming as the show day is approaching. And then for the show day, we usually have this week we call the peak week. So for the peak week, this is where you fully deplete your body from carbohydrates. Zero carbs. People do zero carbs. Others don't take carbs for like 4 or 5 days without carbohydrates. So you lean out. This is whereby you're super lean, super lean, no
And what's the
carbohydrate.
water intake
It
situation during the
reduces.
zero
It
carb week?
reduces significantly because you don't want to have water under your skin. Because the science behind it is the thinner your skin is, the more muscle you will show, the more muscle definition you will show. So if you have thick skin, if you have still a layer of fat under your skin, you will be deemed as being flat. You see? So you want to have the thin, you want to have, we call it pepper skin. You want to have pepper skin. So you see, we were building muscle in the off season. So during the cutting phase, we need to maintain the same muscle. But still, at the same time, we need to have thin skin. So for the thin skin, that's why we reduce carbohydrates. Carbohydrates, when they're in the system and they are not used, they tend to turn into glycogen. Glycogen is, and then it is turned into fats that is stored under the skin. So when you understand how it works, that is whereby you know what amount of carbs I need for my body, what amount of fats I need for my body, and what amount of protein I need for my body. That's why before you start the bulk cutting phase, you need to do it's called a macro calculation. You need to do a macro calculation. After you've done a macro calculation, you'll know the amount of carbohydrates, the amount of fats. You make your meal prep. You remember Rishi me telling Adash he needs to get a kitchen wing scale.
Yep, definitely
Yeah,
on that.
because that is
Just
very important.
also to the listeners, just for context,
Mm-hmm.
Robert is my current PT, legend, already made and still of the making. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he's training me and my brother, who is then competing for men's physique in October. So what he's saying, we are putting it into practice, and it's very interesting to
Yeah,
see the progress results from this training.
yeah.
Nice.
So
I also like. I want to ask, like, when you are going through these training camps, like, how are you feeling? Because, for example, like when you're bulking up, it feels like you have to force yourself to eat. Even if you're not hungry,
yeah,
you have to eat. As
yes.
in, how are you feeling? How's your body feeling during that time?
Actually, Rishi can answer that. As
Well, what helps is watching YouTube videos of powerlifters eating food, eating burgers.
because if you this is what happens when you have a target weight, like for us now, this is our first week of we are now starting our off season. This was our first week. So what we need to do, we need to weigh, see how many kgs we are right now, and then we do the macro calculation. We need to know how many, for the bulking phase, we need to know how many calories we need to have per day. So the calories include also the protein shake. So for per scoop of a protein shake, you need to know how many grams of fats it has, how many grams of carbohydrates it has, how many grams of proteins it has per scoop, so that am I taking 2 scoops of protein shake? Am I taking 3 scoops of protein shake in order for me to hit uh, my macronutrient calories per day? Because you really need to hit. If it's 2,500, it has to get to 2,500. It does not matter how, but you have to get. And also, you need to keep it clean. You need to keep it very clean. No junk food, no cheese, no extras. And then you reduce on sugar intake also, because
Robert,
sugar is your enemy.
We've
Mm,
heard a lot of people saying, dirty bulk. It's fine if you're skinny and you want to get big. Sometimes you have to
no,
have a dirty bulk. Well, what's your thought
no,
process on that?
no. Because dirty bulk, you're just adding on fats. You're not adding on muscle. Because let's say you eat pizza. Let's say a slice of pizza has like two 200 to 300 calories in it. And you have pizza, and then you come have a burger. it has cheese, and also it is deep fried. And then you come and have fries, because also that is dirty bulking. You have fries, and then in the evening you have like a whole bowl of rice and chicken and all that in it. So during the day you have not burned the extra calories you had. You've had a lot of carbs during the day, and also during the night you're having a lot of carbs. The body has not yet digested the carbs you had during the day. And you're also adding on it more carbs during the night. It will process whatever it is processing. The rest of it will store as fat. That's why you see people who are doing dirty bulking, they don't really have muscles to show. They're just bulky. You get the difference?
Yeah,
Mhm.
interesting. And then when you go from now this bulking to the cutting, and now
Yes.
suddenly your food intake is less. Like, and how are you feel? Do you feel like hungry all the time? Are you
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
do you
You
feel
feel hungry
tired?
every other time because you're eating less and
Okay.
less and less and less food. You're reducing your food every single day. Because what you want to achieve, you want to be at your leanest. At the same time, you don't want to drop muscles. So you maintain muscles, but then you drop the fat levels in your system. Mm,
Okay. Okay.
mm.
And can you also tell us about like your training? Because you mentioned that you're probably doing high weight, low reps. Can you tell us
Yeah.
about what sort of split you're doing, and also like
Okay.
what weights are you lifting, and then how many reps are you doing as well?
Okay. So I'll start with the off season. On the off season, what we are trying to achieve, we want to build muscle, pure muscles. So when you want to build muscle, you have to break down muscles to build muscle. So when you're breaking down muscles, this is whereby you are pushing your muscle to an extent whereby they get fatigued, 100% fatigued. You will note that our program is designed to have it's called an hypertrophy training type of program. Hypertrophy means you increase your weights every other time you hit the same muscle. The weights have to go higher. But then when you're doing hypertrophy training, the rep range is low. It's between 12, you can do 12, 10, 8. Others do 10, 8, 6, depending on the weight they are carrying. Because it does not make sense. Scientifically, you can't push, let's say, 150 kgs and then you do 12 reps. Unless you're on gear or something, you can't do that. Naturally, you can't do that. Because once you get to the eighth rep, it's actually hard for you to do it on your own. It's very hard for you to do it on your own. So you see, if you get to 10, you have pushed your body to an extra. You break down more muscles because you can only repair muscles that are broken down. And by repairing is growing. When you repair muscles, you grow more. So you tend to add an inch or 0.5 inches of muscles per week. Yeah, that's why you get the weights you are lifting this week tend to go higher the other week because you've broken down muscles. They have repaired during the week. So they are ready to push more the other week. So that is the whole logic behind the hypertrophy training. That
Okay.
is,
So then how are you splitting up your training sessions? I mean, usually, what people do, whatever, pull, push legs or whatever. Is that similar to what you do, or is it more specific?
yeah, it is more or less similar because most people do pull, push, legs. That's like 3 days per week. Because if you do pull, push, legs, that means you're doing 2 to 3 muscle groups per training. of which you'll find that if you're doing 2 to 3 muscle groups per training, most people don't really. The first muscle group you will train, you'll give it 100%. The second muscle group you train, you'll give it maybe 60, 50%. You'll not hit it as hard as you're supposed to. This is what we are trying to do right now. We are doing 1 muscle group per day and maximizing on every other aspect, every angle of that muscle per day. Let's
So
say we are
Robert,
doing chest. Yeah.
just to tell them, like, as per what we have done with you,
Mm-hmm.
Jan, Feb, March, we were doing sometimes 2 muscle groups per day. For
Yeah.
example, chest, calves, shoulders, triceps, etc.,
Mm-hmm.
like that. And what ended up happening was, when you reach the triceps or when you reach the biceps, you are neglecting full focus on that, so it doesn't grow as much. And since Robert said the past 2 weeks, so since 1st of April, the routine has changed to single muscle on one day, one muscle one day. So you target every area of that muscle. And yeah, Robert can explain on that.
So what that entails is, when, let's say, when you're hitting chest, you hit, because we have the upper, the medius, and the lower pec. So you have to hit your upper pec completely, then you come and hit your medial pectoral completely, and then the lower pec completely, because you want to have a full chest. You don't want to have the lower part only and then the upper part is flat, because when you're on stage, this, I'm speaking from the stage point of view, when you're competing and you're on stage, they need to see the fullness of the whole muscle. Because if you hit one part and you neglect the other one, you'll have an imbalance on the muscle. So you want to completely exhaust every part of that muscle for it to grow evenly. That's why you are keeping it to 1 muscle part per day. And Rishi can tell you, the weights we are pushing right now, you only feel the muscle you're targeting. No other muscle is involved. You don't feel that there's no secondary muscle. Even if there is a secondary muscle, the actual tension on the muscle is very minimal. Very minimal. Because when you break down each and every muscles on that specific muscle, it tends to grow more faster than when you are dividing the distribution of breakdown of muscles in different muscle groups. Yeah.
And can you tell us, in your sort of peak form, what weights are you lifting? How heavy?
Or like I can speak on, let's say, Rishi was pushing on the bench press. Rishi was really struggling. That was when we were starting. That was like 10 kgs, yeah, on the bar, the flat
Yeah,
bench.
literally.
10 kgs, he was really struggling with 10 kgs. He could not get to 12 reps. Right now, like, we did chest on Monday, he was pushing close to, was it 20 kgs on the bar?
Yeah,
Yeah,
straight doubled.
easy. He was easily pushing. That means we've broken down enough muscles and it has repaired nicely. That's why he's able to push more weight. He's able to put more load on the muscles, and they can handle that. That's why you see most people grow way faster when you do single muscle groups, because they get to have more rest periods. They break down and then they repair. By the time you're coming to hit the same muscles again, they are ready to be broken down again.
And then Robert, can you expand a bit on the slow descent of weights, and also the
Negative,
forced
negative.
failure? Yeah, for negatives
Yeah,
and
the
forced
negative.
failures.
Negatives and forced failures. So for negative, this is what happens. You know, when you're pushing weight and your muscles hit, they reach a certain point where they can't push it anymore. When you force it, that is when growth happens. Because that means you have stretched your muscle to an extent whereby they can't stretch anymore. So when you're using forced reps, you tend to break those muscles completely. That's when The next day when you come, you are super sore. Your muscle is sore because you've broken it down completely. So it's sore. It takes like 24 hours for it to recover again and for it to be ready. 24 to 36 hours for it to be fully recovered, for it to hit muscle. You can train again the same muscle.
And Robert, what is your bench press PR?
Tell us
Right
on
now,
peak performance time during competing. During competing.
okay, during competition, we used to go to, I'll speak on the bench press. This was assisted, maybe on the last 3-4 reps. We used to do 120 kgs on the bar. Yeah.
Wow,
Those are
wow,
three.
wow, wow.
Those are three
Crazy.
plates on each side.
But just
So,
to let you know, Rajat, as well, Robert's favorite
mm,
day is leg day, which people hate. This guy loves leg day.
so you see, the people I used to train with, we used to push each other. We would never repeat the same weight the next week. So your last weight, the weight you did on your second rep, on your second set, let's say you did 50 kgs on your second set. That should be your first set the next week. So you start with 50 kgs. So you do 50 and then you do 60 and then you do 70. So the next week you start again with 60 kgs. Because the last week your second set was 60. So always, every other time, your second set becomes your first set.
But Robert,
That
let
is
me
how
let me ask
you,
you
you
for
progressively grow.
people
Mm-hmm.
who are training alone,
Mm-hmm.
you know, how can you assist them to do that without a spotter, or what can you
Okay.
advise them?
If you're training alone, if you don't have a spotter or a partner, always work on your negatives. Always work on your negatives. The slow descent. When you're pushing the weight up, don't drop it. Make your muscles work when you're taking it down. That will help you grow. I am assuming these are people who use the push-pull legs. If you're doing push-pull, because I've seen most people use the same routine, push-pull legs. So when you're doing that, concentrate on the descent. You tend to break more muscles when you're descending slowly. You engage your muscles 100%. You will find that you are progressing. Even if it's slow, you are progressing on the weights as you go. Let's say, for example, you're doing, people like chest. You're doing chest press with dumbbells. The first set you do, let's say, a minimum of 12 kgs. You're using 12 kgs on both hands. And then your target rep is, let's say, 12. So if you hit it properly, when you get to your 10th rep, the last 2 reps, you have to really struggle with them. If you're struggling with them, that means you've hit that muscle 100%. So the last 2 reps, that is where your muscles grow. Because that is where you're putting more stress on the muscles. That is where they tend to grow. So negatives always work when you're training alone. Even if you're not only when you're training alone, they actually work for both sides. Whether you have a partner or whether you're training alone, concentrate on the negative.
Okay, great, amazing. Also, Rishi said that you really like legs. What's your squat and deadlift PR?
On legs, I actually like to. It's not about the weight; it's about how you squat. Because you will not have growth if you are putting. You cannot put, let's say, 200 kgs on your back and you're doing half squats.
So you have to go all the way down and then.
No, not really down. You just do a 90-degree squat. If you do a 90-degree squat with a slow descent, you engage your muscles more, and you'll find that you are able to push more weight on your own, as opposed to someone helping you fully when you're doing squats. Because even if you want to be spotted, you'll only be spotted on the last 3 or 4 reps, not the whole thing. Let's say I'm using 20 kgs, and even at 20 kg weight, you are supposed to feel it on your muscle. If you're having knee problems, it's how you squat. If you're having back problems, it's how you squat. Because posture is very important. With anything you're doing, weight related, posture is the most important thing. Once you correct your posture, everything else will be perfect. Because you train yourself. You train.
Yeah.
So let's say you're doing squat. What is your ideal weight? How many kgs do you do on squat?
So actually, that's the funny thing. I used to do squats before, but because my technique wasn't good, so I started getting like pain in my back. So I don't. I the only squats that I do is with the assisted machine, but I don't do that heavy. Maybe like 60 thing, but it's with the assisted. I don't do free
Yeah.
barbell squats.
So now you can start by correcting your posture, because you can also do bad posture on the machine. Because I've seen so many people do bad posture on the machine. It actually doesn't help you correct. You're the only person who can correct your posture. Because
You're
let's
talking about
say
which one? The flies, back flies.
no. I'm talking about squats. You see how I usually tell people not to lean too forward when they're going down. I was trying to tell him how we do our leg day. We usually start only with a bar, no weights on the bar, and then you do a pre-exhaustion warm up of the muscles. You do 20 reps with the bar, slow descent, very slow descent. So if you get to 20 reps, your muscles are nicely warmed up. So you see, Rishi, for him, he was saying he has a back problem. Anytime he squats, the back has a problem.
Robert, let me ask you, what
Yeah,
about front squats, Smith machine for him? Would that be better because of the straight
actually,
back
actually,
posture?
I was actually going there. So if you feel like you have problems with your back squat with a bar on the back, you can always try and do front squats. There are different variations of squats you can try. There's the front squats, there's the goblet squats, and also you can do box squats if you're not feeling comfortable enough on your back. So for the front squats, you just start with the bar first. You start with the bar on the machine, on the Smith machine. Make sure your legs are not on a straight line on the machine. They're slightly forward. You put them way forward for you to have the 90-degree angle. So your body and the bar need to be on a straight line. Your body and the bar need to be on a straight line. So when you're going down, you fully engage your quads, because the front squats is mainly for the quad muscle. And then when you're doing back squat, you try and do the same thing on the machine. Slightly put your legs forward and then slightly apart, because you don't want to use your knees. You want to use your inner thighs, glute muscles, and hamstrings and quads also. So turn your toes. If your toes are like this, you turn them slightly outside. So when you turn them slightly outside, your knees go where your toes are facing. So when you turn them outside, your knees go where your toes are facing. You engage more muscles on your quads and hamstrings more than your knees. That's why you see most people with a poor or bad techniques of squatting, they tend to have a lot of knee problems. And then when you're going
Yeah.
down, don't bounce on the end. At the end, you see most people go like they bounce at the end. That is where you get knee problems. So when you're going down, you just slowly descend 90 degrees, and then you go back up. And then when you go back up, don't go all the way up. You just go back up to like 45, 30 degrees, and then you go down again to 90 degrees. Because then you keep tension on your muscles other than your knees and your back.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I mean, now since you're on that topic of of injuries, can you tell us about, because
Mhm.
obviously you're lifting really heavy weights and it's sort of pressure on your body. Can you tell us about
Mhm.
any injuries you have faced and then how you have overcome them?
Uh, before I learned how to, let's say, I'll start with deadlifts. Before I learned how to properly do a proper deadlift, I actually got a back injury back in the day. So I had to research more on how to do a proper deadlift. Because you see, for most people, they tend to lift with their back instead of starting with your legs. Because if you're doing a deadlift and you start with your legs and your legs cannot handle that weight, that means the weight shift will be at your back. So the weight will go from your legs to your back. So you'll start lifting, because if you're standing like this, when you're going down and your back is like this, that means you're lifting with your lower back. But then when you're at this angle straight, you're only using your legs to lift. Because you maintain a posture whereby when you're going down to pick the bar, your chest is always up. Because you engage your core, you engage your legs, and your shoulders. That's why you're told when you're doing a deadlift, you lock your shoulders, engage your core, and start with your legs. If you don't do that, if your core is not strong enough, you'll definitely have a back problem. That's why people put belts on their waist. You've seen people using lifting belts. The lifting belt is
Yeah.
only there to help you tighten your core, not protect your back, but to tighten your core. Because if your core is not tight, you will not be able to lift that weight.
Robert, what you said
Mm.
is actually quite something, because I think very few people know that or understand that. They probably
People
just
don't
think it
know.
helps your spine, and
Yeah,
it's a massive difference.
yeah. It does not capture your back. It actually tightens your core. Because once you have you've seen people lifting 100 and something kgs without belts. I'm sure you've seen them
Yeah,
somewhere on the internet lifting
definitely,
100.
definitely.
It's because their core is very strong. If you look at them, they actually have visible abs. Those guys are super strong. Like the people who do uh CrossFit. You've seen people who do CrossFit,
Yeah, yeah.
because CrossFit is technique based. It's not about the weight, it's about the technique. How are you executing your lifts? That's why you are told
Yeah.
before you do any CrossFit thingy, you need to have a foundation in either weightlifting or gymnastics or all that. Because most of the things they incorporate gymnastics and weightlifting in the same thing. But then it's all about technique. Even if you want to grow, let's say like sprinters. Sprinters are mainly do what? Technique work. Because stamina is there, speed is there. What do you work on? Technique and execution of how you're supposed to incorporate the two for you to be at your optimal performance. So once the technique is off, everything goes off.
Mhm.
I think
So
ego
when
lifters have a big issue there.
mhm.
I'm saying ego lifters have a big issue there.
Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah,
want
ego
to
lifters
prove that
have
they can lift a
very
lot,
big issues.
and then
I've seen so many
snap
people get
something.
injuries because of ego lifting. So many people get injuries because of like ego lifting. Or you want to press to your maybe they're girls at the gym You've seen pretty girls at the gym. You want to be the macho man. You want to be the strongest in the gym. Now you end up having a back injury. You can't even train anymore. So it's all about taking care of your technique, taking care of your body, and giving it your best. Learn the techniques. Learn how to execute. Learn how to train properly. Once you get that, then everything becomes easy. Even in your diet. And also I say you can't train for 1 week and then you break for 3 weeks and then you want to go back to where you were lifting the other day. You'll get an injury. You'll get muscle tears and all that. So anytime, consistency is key. If you want to see change, you have to be consistent.
Robert, there is
Mm-hmm.
one area I had asked you this, but I'm curious, further expanding on
Mm-hmm.
this. When you have muscle imbalancement, not within the same
Yeah.
muscle, but within
Mm-hmm.
two separate muscles. For example,
Mm-hmm.
someone's left chest may be weaker than the right, or the left
Mm-hmm.
bicep same against the right one. How do
Mm-hmm.
you balance that out? How do you sort that strength out?
Isolation workouts. Isolation workouts. By isolation, I mean dumbbells. You see why people use dumbbells? Dumbbells correct mostly correct imbalances. Because if your left hand is weaker than your right hand, you'll always feel it. If you're doing chest, one will always come down. If it's the left one, it will come down. So when you are able to lift, let's say 12 reps comfortably with both hands pushing the same weight at the same time, that means you have corrected what? The imbalance on the muscle. So if you use the bar, you'll tend to see most people when they're using the bar, it has slanted to one side because the muscle on one side is weaker. And with the bar, if you'll just the body always finds the center of gravity at any given point. So you'll keep on pushing the weight like that, like that. And then when you stand up, you're bending on one side. People are wondering, hey, Kwani, what kind of exercise is this person doing? Because the body overcompensates. Your lifts are more towards the right, it will shift. It will find a way of shifting towards the right side. So if you use dumbbells, you tend to correct the imbalance because both weights are balanced the same. Even if you feel like if you're doing, let's say for shoulder, let's say you're doing lateral raises, the side raises, you feel like one hand is pushing 15, one hand is pushing 12. If this one is pushing 15 and this one can only get to 12, you force it to push to 16. Because if you push it to 16, it will get to a point whereby you can push comfortably 12 on this side and 12 on this side. Because you overcompensated on one side. But then in general, Rishi, one side of your body is always bigger than the other one. That cuts across everyone. One side of your body tends to be bigger than the other one. You'll find either your right side or your left side, one side is bigger. That means one side is more superior to the other one. So you just anytime you stand in the mirror, just look at yourself and see which chest is bigger than the other one, which shoulder is more prominent than the other one. So that is where you get to understand I need to correct this side more than this side. You look at your legs. Which leg is bigger than the other one? Which calf is bigger than the other one? That's how you learn. Once you learn your body, you know what you need to work on. It's easier for you to grow more and have a nicely streamlined body. Because let's say in bodybuilding, it will be such an advantage for you to have an imbalance. It's a disadvantage, sorry. It's a disadvantage for you to have an imbalance. Because when you stand with other people who have perfect symmetries, you will look off. The judges will look at you. They will not even look at you twice. They'll be like, this one, you're already down on marks. Let's concentrate on this other person. So your physique has to be at a place whereby it stands out.
Yeah, interesting. That now that you brought that, I also wanted to ask, like, so now when you're competing in these bodybuilding competitions, what
Hmm.
exactly is the are the criterias on which you're being marked? Because I think for us, like people who aren't in that space, everyone looks the same. Everyone looks like,
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
they're full
yeah.
of muscles and it looks amazing. We don't know what the differences are, but can you expand on more on what exactly like the judges are looking at?
Okay, so for bodybuilding, now that we have different types of categories, we have men's physique, we have classic physique, and then we have the open bodybuilding. So we start with the open bodybuilding, the most common one. So for the open bodybuilding, it's all about symmetry and balance. Symmetry and balance, because you find like that's why we have different categories for bodybuilding. Let's say for the heavyweights. These are people who are between 90 kgs to 100 kgs. So you see, if you are in that range, everyone is big. But then what separates you, the last person from the first person, is the overall symmetry of the person. Symmetry meaning your shoulders and your legs have to be balanced. Because you can't have small shoulders and you have big legs. You see, because the symmetry will not be balanced. We look for something we call the X factor. When someone stands like this, the shoulders are broad and the legs are big, but the waist is super small. So once you have that X factor, that is a point on your side. And then the second thing they look at is muscle definition. How defined are you? Are your muscles more visible than this other person, or are they less visible than this other person? So the leaner you are, the better your chances are of getting the first position. And then the third thing they look at is presentation. How are you posing? They look at how you're posing. You might find someone who has the perfect physique, perfect balanced top from top to bottom, balanced, super lean, has everything. But then how they are posing, they are not even showing their muscles. They're just doing their own things. They don't even know all the poses. They don't even know the routines. So now the judges will give you everything, but on the posing side of it, you'll not get anything. And then you find someone who has weaknesses. They know their weaknesses. So they tend to show their superior sides. How they pose, they hide their weaknesses. So when you hide your weaknesses, you only show the best sides you have. If your left chest is smaller than the right one or is more defined than the right one, you pose more with your left chest. If your obliques, the side abs, if they are more defined, the right side is more defined than the left side, tend to lean on the right side more. So they'll always be seeing one side of you that is more superior than the other one. So when it comes to the men's physique category, this is whereby you showcase, they usually show from the waist up and the calves. They don't do quads and hamstring and glutes. They usually show from the waist up. So that means you need to have a very tiny waist, wide lats, and very broad shoulders, and the rounded chest. So you see, this physique, this is whereby almost everyone falls in this category because naturally, as men, you tend to have that kind of physique in whereby your chest is always superior to every other part of your body. That's why you see everyone, each and every person who goes to the gym, men specifically, they will always start with the bench press. Anyone, if you take someone who has never been to the gym, what will they start with? They'll always lie on the bench press because it's natural. That is the most superior part of your body. So that's why they came up with the beach kind of look. You see those people who want to just have nice bodies, they have a nice physique. They want to, and it has to have some kind of poise to it. When you're posing, you need to showcase how you're posing. It's more of let's say it's the beautiful side of bodybuilding. It's not the most masculine side of bodybuilding. So you see, for bodybuilders, the open bodybuilders, most of them tend to be 100 kgs plus. For men's physique, these are people who are in the range of 60, 70, 80 and above. Those are deemed to be too big for men's physique. And then we have
Okay.
this other category called classic physique. That is the most balanced category you can ever go to. It is the hardest category you can ever go to because you need to have the upper body of a men's physique person and the overall symmetry of an open's physique. So it's in between the two categories. So you need to be in between the two categories. So the judging criteria for this one is how you pose. And have you seen how the 90s bodybuilders used to pose? If you've seen videos of them, the Arnold
I've seen
Schwarzenegger.
like Arnold. Yeah, I've seen Arnold.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Arnold, they tend to lean more. It's called the golden era. They tend to lean more to the golden era types of physique, whereby you have a nicely balanced physique, not too big, not too small, just in between.
So is that classic or open?
That is classic.
Okay.
Open is the most extreme. Open is the most. You have to get to your biggest. You have to have the biggest quads, the biggest calves, the biggest chest and the back. Like Ronnie Coleman. You've seen Ronnie Coleman.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Legend, legend.
he's deemed as the optimal open bodybuilder. So that is what they're aiming for.
Right. Nice, nice.
Mhm.
And I also wanted to ask, like, obviously this whole thing is so competitive, and there are very small margins between that are separating people.
Mhm.
So, what is the like? How extensive is the use of performing enhancing drugs like steroids and stuff? Was it common before? Is it common now? As in,
I think it.
do you find?
I think now it is more common, but then the science behind performance enhancing drugs is most people don't get to do blood work before they get themselves into PEDs. Because in order for you to get your to start using gear, you have to have gotten to your optimum level of the natural body. You have to have taken it to a place whereby naturally you can grow to a certain place. Only when you're competing and you have gotten to that place is whereby, and it has to be an informed choice. It has to be an informed choice because it comes with a lot of side effects. It has a lot of side effects. So you have to be ready to go the other route. Because we usually say, if you're not careful, your time span after using PEDs might be 2 to 3, 4 years if you're not careful enough. Because you tend to have liver problems, you tend to have kidney issues, you tend to have heart failures and stuff. Because you're pushing your body to where it's a synthetic product. You're putting it into your body. The first thing that will happen, the body will try to fight it. So, with the body fighting it, the first thing that suffers is your kidney. Because all the toxins in your body, each and every toxin in your body comes out through the kidney. That is your cleaning system. So, if that one fails, then your body is dead, done. So,
Have you? Yeah, like,
yeah,
did you come across like people who are using this like during when you're
yeah, yeah.
competing or training?
back in the day. Back in the day, it was not as vocal as now. People would really, really hide it. We would even back in the day, we had this notion whereby anyone who was using supplements was using PEDs. We didn't know better. We didn't know what supplements were. We didn't know what was the science behind supplements. Because supplements, most of them are food based. So food supplements, that's why they're usually sold in like health shops. You will never have you ever seen anyone selling steroids over the counter? Where are they
No
hidden?
chance.
Because they are never tested. There's nowhere they test steroids. You are the first person to test steroids. Once you buy a steroid, the vial, you are the guinea pig. How it will work on you, it will not work on the other person. So it is not tested, and you cannot hold anyone accountable for it. That's why there are no known companies that produce steroids for the open market. So you see, steroids
Yeah.
are only medically used. Most people who get them, they get them from hospitals.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Interesting. Interesting. I mean, you have gone on for quite a while, Rishi. So I don't know. You have anything else to?
Just Robert, just the last one before we move on to just a relaxing few
Mhm.
rapid fire questions. So
Mhm.
when it comes down to rest days, say you're training Monday to Friday, I think also I'm guilty of this.
Mhm.
On the rest days, the behavior of the rest days, I think, is such a crucial aspect when it comes to how you rest, what
Mhm.
you do. Is it an active rest day, and what is your bulking or cutting plan? Is it going to be copy paste the same of your training days, or a lower intensity on everything by say 10-20%? How do you calculate your rest days performance, not performance, but your routine on your rest days compared to your active days?
Okay, so on rest days, basically you can do your day-to-day activities, but then what you're only doing is you're giving your body rest from working out. So you're giving your body a chance to replenish and recover. So this is you eat, and once you've had more than 8 to 9 hours of sleep, then you are good to go. The only thing we tend to do with rest days, uh, most people do this. They train 6 to 7 days a week. Because if you're an active bodybuilder, you'll tend to have 6 days of working out. So for the 6 days of working out, ideally, the rest day is used for the last day of working out. Let's say you did legs on your last day. You also need to give it time for it to recover. That's why you don't train for 7 days. Because you trained chest on Monday. You have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for it to recover. You see, those are 4 days. So if you train for 7 days, your body will tend to shut down. There will not be much growth. So what we aim for is more rest in terms of letting your muscle recover and regrow. And when
What
you
about the food, the food aspect of things? If you're eating 2,500 calories on your Monday to Friday, and
mm,
then because you have a lower intensity session on say Sunday, do you decrease your calories
you
to
don't
a
change
relaxing say
anything.
2,000?
You don't change anything. No, you don't
It
reduce your
stays the same.
calorie intake. Because it means you'll be feeding your body less, and then
Right.
you'll end up having something we called muscle catabolism. Your body will tend to ask for 2,500, and you're giving it 1,500. It will look for an extra source of energy, and it will always the first part it goes for is your muscles. So the body starts
So
eating your muscles.
I think I'm guilty of that quite a lot when it comes
Yeah.
to the weekends and not maintaining
If you're
something I
eating
think
if
I'm
you're
actually.
eating 4 meals per day, even on your off day, eat your 4 meals. Figure your shake. Every other thing is the same. You don't change anything.
Right. Interesting. But I
Yeah.
think, yeah, no, that's honestly, I think in terms of questions, that's it from me. Before we move on to the last part, I don't know, Rajat.
You tend to be like, now, no, now that I am not training, let me just eat one meal a day and then rest. No, you, because the body continues, you still have to feed it. If it's That's why we calculate like this. When you are calculating the number of days we are heading towards the show, we include rest days. We don't exclude rest days. So you have to count. If you have 14 days, you count 14 days plus the rest days, because the rest days are very important. That is when you're just feeding your body and you're sitting down. So if you don't have a bulking phase, you'll use that one day as your bulking phase
Ah,
to
right. Okay.
maintain your
Interesting.
muscle.
Very. That's quite interesting on
Mm.
that point.
And you
Because
asked
you're game
you
changing.
asked about the bulking phase. You asked something about the bulking phase. What was the question?
No, you answered it. It's regarding that.
Okay.
Okay. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I also, on the sense of rest, I also want to ask, like, how important is sleep? Are you also making sure you have a minimum amount of sleep as
Very
well?
important. Very important. That is when you grow. That is when you grow. That is when your body is at its total shutdown, and then it uses less energy, it burns less calories. That's why you tend to grow, because every other nutrients that is in the system is being used with very minimal calories being expended. Because when you're active, your body burns more. That's why you keep on eating after every 3 hours to compensate for that extra burn your calories. But when you're resting, when you're sleeping, the body shuts down and it tends to use less calories when functioning because your brain is asleep. The growth hormone kicks in when your body is sleeping. That's
So
why
is
rest
it,
is
so how many hours of sleep would you be
eight
usually
to
doing
nine
during
hours.
that time? 8 to 9.
8 to
Okay.
9 hours. But then I used to sleep because I was waking up early at around 3. I used to make sure by 9 I'm in bed. Latest 9. Because you don't have time for parties, you don't have time. They usually say when you're doing bodybuilding, it's a very selfish sport. You don't have time for shere, you don't have time for even I used to go to I remember there was a time I went for a wedding. I carried my own food. You're there removing tins of food, putting it on the table. Everyone is looking at you like, are you okay? But now you know your goal. So that's why you see people walking with bags every other place with food because you keep on feeding your body every other time.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot
Yeah,
of
it
work.
is a lot
Uh,
of work. That's why I told you it needs a lot of dedication. A lot of dedication. Because they
yeah, and a
say,
lot of discipline as well, to
yes,
maintain it
if
for
you
so
if you
long.
skip when you are in prep, if you eat one bad meal, it takes you back 1 week.
Wow.
Yes,
That's a big like penalty you can call it. That's
yes,
crazy.
it takes you back 1 week. So if it's taking you back 1 week, how will you be able to compensate for that 1 week? And yet, let's say you have 6 days to the competition and you've eaten one bad meal just because the cravings are high during that time.
So
Everything
Robert,
looks nice.
what do you do now when
Mm.
those cravings are high? When you're really carb cutting and you need to keep your mind off it. What do you do?
Sleep. That is the only thing you can do. That is the only thing. And avoid places where people are eating nice things. That's when you tend to, especially the peak week. That is the worst week ever. That is the worst week. The peak week is super draining. Low on carbs, zero sugar, no sugar in your system at all whatsoever. And you do not have energy. You don't want to talk to people. You're in your own world for 7 good days. So you see, that's why we
Crazy.
do. That's why before the competition, like 4 to 5 weeks out, we do a pre-peak week. We choose one of the weeks. We do a peak week on that week. No carbs, nini. We reduce the carbs kabisa, just to see how your body will look like during the peak week, how you will be feeling during the peak week, so that when it gets to the peak week, you know how to handle that situation. Because if you don't do that
Wow.
and you do it on the peak week and you mess anything up, there's no coming back from that.
Wow. Amazing. The final one from me. So now, once you have done the competition, and then now you
Mm-hmm.
don't have any training, any diet.
Mm-hmm.
What's the first thing like you would eat?
Your cheat meal, whatever you
Yeah. What's
want.
your cheat meal? What's your cheat
But
meal?
then this is funny because you have deprived your body of so much. The only thing you yearn for immediately after the competition is water. You drink like gallons and gallons of water.
Ah, that's an interesting
You
one.
can only have, if you take pizza and you take, let's say, like a whole box of pizza, the next day the whole day you'll be in the toilet. Everything will be coming out because the body is not used to that. You have to reintroduce it slowly by slowly. That's why if you see anyone 2 days after the show, their body is looking amazing because they are putting everything back. So the body has everything. They're looking way better than even when they were in the show. Actually, 24 hours after the show, because now you're eating, you have sugar, you have everything. You look super nice. But then you can't do that during the show because you don't know how your body will look like. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
Mhm.
Rishi, over to you.
So Robert, this we're done with the main topics. We just have
Mhm.
7 rapid fire questions. So quick
Yes.
question, quick answer. Not
Okay.
concerning bodybuilding or work at all,
Okay. Okay.
but yeah, just something interesting. Let's go over to question number one. Tell
Mhm.
us any phrase, any quote, be it your own or someone else's, that you want to share to our listeners.
Quotes. Number one, my biggest quote: you can never out train a bad diet. Never ever. That's a no
That's
no.
a very
I
good one. That's a
I
very
usually
good one.
I usually go by
Yeah.
that. You will never out train a bad diet ever.
I like that. That's a good one. A lot of people, yeah, that sums it up.
Cause,
No
'cause-
words needed.
yeah, not even one meal, one cheat meal. A bad diet, no, you can never out train a bad diet. Hmm.
Nice. All right. Question number two. What's your go-to karaoke song?
Karaoke song, whoa, whoa, with my bad voice. I like. There's one Bob Marley song I like. Redemption song. I don't know if you know it.
Nice.
That's a good one. Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a nice tune. I like that one. That one I can sing
Nice,
with
nice.
my baddest voice, and no one will judge me.
All right. So question number three. What hobby do you have outside of work?
Outside of work, my hobby traveling. I like traveling a lot, and adrenaline things, zip lining, bungee jumping. Have you guys done bungee jumping before?
I have not,
You should
and
try.
will not.
You
Yeah. I
should
want
try.
to. I want to try.
You should try. Go to
Yeah.
Sagana and do it. Have you been to Sagana?
Interesting. No, no, never.
You should look for a weekend. Go to Sagana. Sagana is full of adrenaline, water rafting, zip lining, and bungee jumping.
That actually sounds like a fun weekend out.
That's why they say once you do bungee jumping, you'll understand when someone throws themselves off a roof, they are done. It is the hardest thing to do. It is the hardest thing to do.
Now, Robert, a question number
Mm,
4, which is a bit of a
mm,
deep question. Do you have any,
yeah.
failures or setbacks you've experienced and how you may have overcome them?
Yeah, I have experienced quite a huge setback. This is a while back, like 3 years ago. It was actually a bad one. You know, when you're in a relationship with someone, then they live with your whole house, you tend to shut down. So you see, and then the worst part of it was you can't speak to anyone about it. You can't. You still have to work, and you still have to show up to work, keep a smile on your face while going through it. So I think that was my biggest setback. Yeah, yeah.
How
So
did you
what
overcome it?
really helped
Like,
me,
yeah.
I think, for me, my go-to was the gym. I think that is when I was at my biggest, surprisingly, because I used to. My routine was it was kind of shitty. It used to be gym, gym work, and home. Gym work and home. Not, I never did anything for 2 years. Nothing else for 2 years.
Wow, that's actually quite something.
Yeah,
And that's well, you're better off now.
way better, way better. They
All
say
right, all
you
right.
have for a man to get to his optimal, you have to have gone through something super hard that you can't. If you tell people, they will be like, how are you alive?"
Yeah, that's facts.
So
I think
that's
every great person, even
yeah,
alive,
yeah,
has had,
yeah.
such events, no
Mm.
doubt.
So you understand
Or
setbacks are there, but then you just have to find a way of overcoming. If it's talking to someone, getting counseling, or just finding your own way of getting through it, one way or the other, you just have to overcome it. You always come out of it stronger than you expected.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
I'll ask you one last question, and I'll leave the last question to Rajat.
Okay.
The final question, Rajat. All right, because you're a man of diet as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you prefer crunchy or smooth peanut butter?
Uh, Crunchy because of the
What's the
peanut
reason?
butter. Yeah, crunchy is nice. Crunchy is nice.
Nice, 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 nice.
Mm,
All right, so from a professional nutritionist as well, crunchy is
yeah.
good. But I'll leave the last question to Rajat.
Yeah, okay, Robert, my final question to you is if you could meet any three people, dead or alive, who would you want to meet?
Number one, number one. Alive, I would like to sit down with. There's a guy. He's an American football coach. I don't know if you know him, Coach Prime. Yeah, he is a very good. I listen to him a lot. He's a very good motivational. He's a very good life coach. He has he has gone through it in life, and he tends to deal with young people who are coming up. He's a very. If I had an hour with him, I know I would come out with a lot. The second person I would love to meet is Denzel Washington, the new Denzel Washington, the preacher Denzel Washington. I don't know if you've seen. I had one of his podcasts. He was speaking about just life in general, how you grow, how you overcome adversities, and how to just navigate life. And the last person who I I wish to have gone to his concert is Bob Marley. I wish I had seen him live performing somewhere. I know that would have been epic.
Nice. That's an amazing group of
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
Yeah, really good, really good.
Yeah, really good. Great. I think on that note, amazing. We end it here. We have gone for more than 90 minutes, but
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
gone so quick.
There's so much information in this
Mm,
podcast. Even despite
mm,
Robert being my own trainer, I have also still learned some things here which I'm going to
mm,
implement and fix. But
mm,
again, like as usual, to everyone listening out there, this is worth it. This is a lot of information, a lot of technical
yeah.
knowledge from a
Mhm,
professional, a guy who has had experience in the field for many, many years, over a decade.
mhm.
And let me leave it to Rajat to take us home.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, thank you, Robert, for coming on. Thanks for sharing in so much detail as well about your
You're
experiences, because
welcome. You're
all
welcome.
these, yeah, these especially these things about like the diet, the weighing, the macronutrition, the
Mhm.
training, the detail of that is so interesting. So, thank you for joining. I mean, I hope you enjoyed it as
You're
well.
welcome. I did. I did. I did so much. It's
And
been.
and, and Robert, just one. I want you to just give us one thing, one comment to
Mhm.
people who are out there who keep saying, "Oh, I want to start gym. I got to start it. I got to make a step." What can you tell them to push them to just start, like anything?
So it's a quote I use. You have a choice. It's either you make it one day or day one. It's either you make it
I mean, that sums it up.
your first day. Yeah.
Great,
Eh,
amazing,
Either one day or day one. Because you will always be saying, one day I will start, one day I'll start. Or this is my first day in the gym. It's just a choice.
Man, facts, facts, facts. And
Yeah.
honestly, after
love,
this podcast, I am hungry. I want to go eat. But
Eat,
I'll leave it to
eat,
lovely.
Rajat.
eat.
Yeah. Lovely. On that note, to everyone listening, hope you guys enjoyed it. This was an amazing podcast. If
Mhm.
Robert, you have Instagram, right? We'll put your
Yeah, I
Instagram
do have Instagram.
when we
It's
share
called
this podcast.
R Wafula.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
just
great.
like that.
If
Yeah,
anyone wants to contact you for any like fitness things, they can get in touch.
find me there.
Um,
Find me
And
there.
and don't
yes.
forget, Robert is based in Eldoret, right? So
Yeah, I'm in
he
Eldoret at
works with
Super.
and sees people who are
Yeah,
world champions all the time. So he knows what
right.
the game is, how it's played.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Great. Amazing.
if they ever need me back for anything, I'm always available.
Amazing, amazing, great. Thank you everyone for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye bye.